everyone. Thank you all for being here, and welcome to the beginning of a three-part series with Grid 110 and Techstars on the experience of early stage founders today. I'm Margo Johnson, leading partnerships for Grid 110, an LA-based economic and community development nonprofit and startup accelerator focused on underrepresented founders. Over 8 years, we've supported 280 plus companies through our programs and thousands more through workshops and free events. I'll drop some links in the chat now if you'd like to learn more about Grid 110, and we encourage you to sign up to our newsletter to stay up to date. So here we go. And Ahmed and I were inspired to host this series because we kept hearing from our community of founders the desire to dive deeper and talk about how to actually build companies in tough funding environments and hear from founders on their journeys and practical insights. So I hope you enjoy the discussion today and come away feeling inspired. We'll be having another event on March 5th on Founders Second Acts, so stay tuned for that. And Ahmed, I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself in the panel.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Margo. Hello, everyone. My name is Ahmed Mirza. I am an investment lead for Techstars Los Angeles. I help run and manage 3 programs out of LA. So Techstars LA, Techstars Healthcare, and Techstars Space. So late last year, Margo and I kind of got our heads together. You know, we run very community-based organizations in LA. And, you know, we kind of, as she was alluding to, constantly hear from our founders that the funding environment is deteriorating. How do we kind of make, you know, our shoestring budgets last longer, go farther, and do more for us? So that kind of spawned this event called Bold Beginnings. And that's what we're trying to do, is help founders in this funding environment launch a business and really navigate a market downturn. So without much further ado, I want to introduce our panelists. We have a lot of stuff planned here today, and we're going to get some really actionable insights. So first, I'd love to introduce Jorge Garcia, or first I'd like to introduce Ehime, founder and CEO of Sweet Kiwi. Sweet Kiwi is a frozen yogurt company bridging the gap between good for you, functional nutrition, and great taste. She's a Techstars LA cohort company from last fall. Next, I'd like to introduce Jorge Garcia, founder and CEO of Linker Finance. Linker Finance is a mobile and online banking platform for community banks that is easy to launch, easy to integrate, and easy to customize. And last but not least, Rocky Collins. He is founder and CEO of Cali Handsome. Cali Handsome is a direct-to-consumer business providing premium essential cosmetic products for men. And his company is a Grid 110 portfolio company. So rather than have everyone, you know, sort of do their introductions, I kind of want to dive right in because there's a lot of good, you know, nuggets of information that our founders can share with the broader community. And I think I want to start off with Ehi. You know, kind of, could you share your, you know, kind of very briefly and quickly, your founder story? Tell us how Sweet Kiwi came to be as sort of a physical products company.
Sweet Kiwi, hi everyone. I'm really excited to be here and share my experience. Sweet Kiwi started for me as fulfilling a personal need. I was diagnosed with a uterine fibroid, and I was looking for a way to change my diet because I didn't want to have surgery. In the course of that, I noticed that I really struggle with dessert. I'm a big sweet tooth, so it was really hard to give up my sweet things. And I started playing around in my kitchen, trying to create something that I could snack on almost every day without feeling bad about it, something that had some really great nutrition. So this product was just for me. I was making it for myself using natural Greek yogurt. And I would take it to work. I was working at Citigroup at the time. My coworkers were always fighting over it. And at some point, I was like, well, you guys have to start chipping in for groceries because it's expensive to feed like the whole team. And they were like, actually, we'll pay. And I was like, wait, you'll pay? Like, that was just like a light bulb moment. Like, so you guys would actually pay for this stuff? And everyone was like placing orders at work. And I was like, okay, maybe I should do this, you know, seriously. Maybe I should make this into a business.
Yeah, that's incredible. So entrepreneurs, you know, they have these great ideas. How'd you actually go out and execute? I hear the inspiration, right? So something coming, it's from a very personal place. How'd you actually go out and execute and say, hey, this is the thing I'm going to build, and this is what I'm going to go out and do?
I think a lot of that comes with self-confidence. For me, I was terrified. Like I still remember the first time my boss said to me, you know, you could do this as a business. I literally felt like the fear in my heart, like me, like that's not me at all. But I think to start making myself comfortable with the idea that I could be an entrepreneur and I could really build this was to make myself very comfortable in with my surroundings and the product. So I got a job as a waitress in a hotel. And I would literally leave work at 4 o'clock, drive 1 hour to Dallas, and resume my shift in this restaurant where I was learning how the food industry worked. And then I also decided to go to Penn State to learn ice cream manufacturing and cultured dairies processing because I wanted every single information about this thing if I was going to go into it. So the more I knew, the more comfortable I got, the more I started to believe in myself. And the more I knew, like, I could do this, I could really do this.
Yeah, that's really incredible. Thanks for sharing that, putting words into action. I think that's key takeaway. I want to transition to Rocky, who also has a physical products company in the
Yes, hello.
cosmetic space. Hi, hey, Rocky. Yeah, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you came to be with Callie Handsome.
Yeah, for me, it stemmed from a personal place too, in a sense where everybody's always like, how did you get in the beauty industry? But I started losing my hair really bad when I was in college. And by the time I became like 23, like, and it's for hereditary reasons, by the time I became like 22 or 23, like my hair was completely gone. And I saw the impacts that had on my confidence, not just like socially, but even at work. Like I was such a gregarious, outgoing person. But once I started losing my hair and losing the self-confidence because I didn't like the way I looked, I stopped taking on projects at work. So like my career started taking a hit, just everything in my life started taking a hit. But then I found cosmetics and I found ways to like, okay, well, I can take ownership of how I walk outside, like whether that's like covering up certain blemishes with like tinted moisturizers or concealers or whatever. I started to regain my confidence through like the beauty industry. So that's how I came to be in the beauty space. And at the same time, on the corporate side, my profession was as a buyer. And so if anybody doesn't know what a buyer is or a merchandiser in the corporate retail space, like I was literally developing and launching products for the biggest retail companies, the American Eagles, L'Oreal's, and
Wow.
yes. And so at the same time as I was having this personal feeling of like, wow, the beauty industry gave me so much power back. I wish more guys understood this. Like makeup is not just for women. I wish more guys knew this. And so what that was happening personally, professionally, I was also at L'Oreal at the time being like, damn, like I'm working on these products, but they're not making products for guys and for people like me. And like, why are there no beauty brands doing the things that I wish existed for me? And so those two things happening at the same time was why I really was like, you know what? If nobody else is going to do it, I'm gonna do it. And that was like the moment I was just like, oh, Callie Handsome is gonna be a thing, and we're about to rock with it. And yeah, that those two worlds colliding like sparked everything for me.
That's incredible. I think in both your case and Ehi's case, coming from such a personal place of
Yeah,
sort of inspiration and then actually going out and learning and executing. That's such a big courageous step in the entrepreneurial journey.
for sure. I will say too, I think and it sounds like the similar um situation that she spoke about before too. I think a benefit that I had that like it's kind of underrated when it comes to like the way we view founders is when I launched my company, I was still working a full-time job. And so because I was working a full-time job, like I was able to essentially view my full-time job as my first investor. And so like when people were like, how did you get started and go raise a friends and family and go do this, that, and the third, like me personally as a founder of color, there was no opportunity to raise a friends and family. I don't come from like a world where I even knew what investment capital was. Like I was in year 2 of business before I even knew what VC and all of that stuff was. So
Rocky, I'm disappointed. You don't have friends that can
I know,
write $2 million check. Come on, what's
I
going
know, right? I'm like,
on?
oh, I should at least had a 250,000, something. But using my full-time job as my first investor was how I literally got started. And also the benefit of that people don't talk about enough is because I had a full-time job, there was no immediate sales pressure on the business. We did not need to like force this thing against beating our heads against the wall or forcing it uphill. I was able to take my time and really see like, where are the customers? Like exactly how do I talk to them? How much is he willing to pay for it? I was able to like really take my time because I didn't have any sales pressure on the business because I worked full time. And so that's why like sometimes it hurts my heart when founders are like, oh, I can't start a business until I can go full time. I'm like, nah, do it when you don't have that pressure. It's different running a business when you're reliant on your business to financially take care of your life versus when you're building a business and you don't have to worry about like your livelihood. Like those are two very different situations and you can approach things in a very, very different way.
Yeah, that's actually a great segue, and I appreciate you sharing that because Maslow's hierarchy of needs is so necessary, right? Having kind of, your physical needs met, your personal needs met. Entrepreneurship comes in all sizes and shapes and flavors. So, and that's actually a great point because I think that leads me to Jorge of Linker Finance. He can. I'd be curious to hear from you, Jorge, about kind of this journey of, launching a business while you're kind of doing some other stuff, entrepreneurial things related, and bootstrapping along the way, and then getting Linker Finance up and running.
Yeah, no, thank you, and yeah, maybe I can share a little bit about my story, and then I'll share more about that. Just in my case, well, I'm a serial entrepreneur. Already had a company running, and the interesting thing is that that how I came to Linker Finance. So that business that I started, we sold a company to a large media conglomerate that I'm going to say the name right now, and then we told them, hey, don't hire us, hire our company. So a little company that we had 5 people and just hired 2 more, 7, and we were telling people, yeah, we're 10. We were 7 actually at that time. So that business started to grow right as we were working with them, and then interestingly enough, how I found the problem when I was in the media and entertainment space. We already have a relationship with a large financial institution. I'll say the name of the bank. We already had a line of credit with them. Went to work with them and tell them, hey, our business is growing. We want to expand our line of credit because this financial institution pays us in net 120. Like it was net 60, but they took like 30 to 60 days to accept our invoice. So it was effectively net 120. So we went to them and they actually denied our line of credit extension, right? And we're like, okay, this is weird. Like they see our movement, they see our invoices and all of that. At the time, I was part of a program. It's called the Stanford Latino Business Action Network, Stanford LBAN. So it's focused on Latino scaling businesses. So they connected us to a local bank. And interestingly enough, so they met with us. It was like a very personal relationship, and they got to figure out, hey, yeah, no, this is a very interesting business. They gave us like 5 times our line of credit, a flex loan, credit card, and such. So it was like, oh my God, I started to discover how business banking works here in the US. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. But then I started to use their apps, right? So I've been building apps for a long time, like 10 plus years. And actually I started building things for iPads and Blackberry. So I've done mobile for a long time. And I was like, okay, this is pretty bad. And I had 3 different logins. I had to call to make a wire transfer. I've used things like Brex and Mercury, and it's like this should be very easy, right? I started to do research about the space, and at the same time as our business was growing, I was starting to do a lot of fintech, so a lot of neobanking, mobile wallets, investment apps, and things like that. And I was like, oh my God! So I have all this experience, and I'm seeing this problem, and I see that it's a repeating issue. Like community bank after community bank that I was looking at was having that same issue. And the more research that I did, I discovered something that's super important is that community banks, they fund like 50% of small business loans. So every time that I heard people that don't know the space, was telling me, yeah, but there are small banks and like we don't know what they do and all of that. And it's like, no, actually, they actually fund like 50% of small business loans. And honestly, like when you see the stats, they like you think that it's the small loans. No, not really. 80% of the less than 100,000 loans are by large financial institutions.
Wow.
They actually mark 50% from 100K and beyond. So if you need a 1 million loan, if you need, they fund 70% of agriculture loans. So I fell in love with this space. I felt like, okay, this is something that matters to me. It impacted my previous business. It's something that I can solve. And I said, okay, I need to do it. I mean, I'm turning 43. I have a 20-year-old daughter, so I couldn't say, hey, yeah, I'm just gonna jump into this. And I don't have like, I make fun of the friends that like, yeah, don't you have like friends and family? It's like, no, actually, I'm the one that I'm being asked for money when when somebody needs money. So I don't have somebody to ask.
You're telling me you also don't have $2 million lined up from
No,
friends?
no, yeah. I was kind of like looking, but no, apparently not. And so I had to say, okay, I had to be resourceful. So in this company, I said, okay, we already had another company. Let's start to incubate it in our other company with small resources. And that brought a lot of challenges just because a business that is running has its own priorities. So I was kind of like starting to build with people that were off, and then they had to change it because the other business had some needs. So that kind of like was an issue for me. I'm technical, so in other companies that I've started, I did the same. I was working, and then I would just start to code on my free time and all of that. But yeah, so I started to say, okay, I'm gonna do this until it came to a point where I said, okay, I'm spending more time in the new company.
Yeah.
And if I want this to be big, I need to just move 100% of my time. And that's when I said, okay, I'm going to do that. I had to plan a transition because, yeah, I'm a founder of the other business. So like I had to tell the team, plan like who would be the relay, announce to the current clients that I had that all saw me every week. And then we did a big announcement in August last year, but actually I had already for several months been only working on linker finance, and then started to work on that fully. So yeah, so that's a little bit on my background. And yeah, that I'm very familiar on starting a business, and it's just like, okay, you don't have the money, but you need to make it work in some way.
So that's so I think two things I can tease out from all the conversations here from all three founders, right? Which is this came from a personal observation, a personal place, right? So whether we're dealing with something personally, a health issue, or perhaps some other issue that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, and then putting words into action, actually going out and executing it and doing it because it's so meaningful to you. I think that gets me to kind of my next question for kind of all three founders here, which is, and I'd love to start with Ehi first. How'd you actually get your first customer? It's one thing to build the product, right? So I get the inspiration, I get, how you, came about with the idea. How'd you go out and find people and say, hey, here's my frozen yogurt, please try it? Walk us through that.
For us, we were just looking for a way that we could, get the product into somewhere and start selling it. And I would talk to a lot of founders in the DC community, and people were telling me they would do these pop-ups at a lot of apartment buildings, residential buildings, and get people to sample, but it was all done for free.
Right.
And I was talking to a friend of mine who works at a concierge company, and she said, well, my company is always paying people to come do like ice cream socials and things like that. Would you be interested in doing that? I'm like, yes, do they pay? And that's how we created this whole model where we started doing catering for a lot of residential buildings. So she introduced me to her company, and they gave us our first job, which was a massive job in M Street, Northwest DC, and it was just over 1,000 people. First job, like really crazy, and that just picked up really quickly. We started reaching out to so many other buildings because we realized like people really want this. Like as soon as they get our emails, they're like, "Oh, we already have like, what are you guys doing this day?" And I was like, "This is really hot." And we just kind of built that really quickly. And to be able to do that, we had to get like a commercial kitchen so we could get all our licensing. So we moved into a commercial kitchen in DC. A lot of things that happened was Whole Foods had already been getting people asking like, where do you have this product? There's this frozen yogurt company. And that's because we had like done a lot of catering events around like a lot of apartments, like buildings and commercial buildings. So once we went into that facility, we were invited to submit for Whole Foods. So things just pretty much took off from there. So for me, I would say it's building from that community-centered approach. And some of the things that my DC CPG founders learned is you don't have to give the product away for free. Some people are willing to pay for it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And once again, congratulations. I remember when I met Ehi early on in the interview process, I fell in love with how resourceful and creative she was from the get-go. The idea of, hey, we don't necessarily need to sell into a store or some sort of vertical. Why don't we just build community around it and get people to talk about the product? That's really, really insightful and really great. And I think that leads me to Rocky. How do you build community for a product or a category that's been kind of overlooked, as you were mentioning earlier?
Yeah, first off, I echo that sentiment so much about like you don't have to give away your product for free. I know a lot of people just assume that's what you have to do. I know for me, there was no money where I'm like, well, I have this amount of runway to figure it out. It was like your business needs to make money from day one, or you will not have a business, period. That was just the reality of my situation. And building community and finding those customers, I chose the approach of going digital first because it was the cheapest way I could reach a massive audience. And specifically, like tangibly, literally, all of those words mean the same thing, specifically, literally, tangibly, through digital marketing and ads on Facebook. And I literally started by just spending like $5 a day because I wanted to see like, it's not about like my friends and family that were around me. Like your friends and fam might show up when you first launch and they might buy your products at first, but when the hype dies down and it's like when the Instagram comments die down from like, oh my God, congrats on your business, bro, and da-da-da, who's going to sustain this company? It's not going to be like my friends and fam. Like I need real customers. So I wanted to go and find like, where exactly are my customers? Are they people who are interested in like the GQ magazines and the Esquire magazine? So I tested $5 a day running an ad to those people with like showing my product, showing like the benefits that they would get out of it. And then I would just like listen. And if I spent $5 a day and at the end of 7 days, I'm like, okay, I spent $35 this week and this ad made nothing. Maybe my customers not the people who are in the GQ magazines or whatever. But then if I look at another ad and I'm like, hey, I spent $35 last week and we made $250. There's something here. What do we do? Oh, we targeted guys that shopped at Nike. Okay, so maybe he's like into like a streetwear dresser. And I just literally slowly started building my knowledge of where exactly our customer was and how he wanted to be talked to. And if I got like a lot of comments or a lot of questions of like, oh, like I saw this, but like, I don't know if it's going to come off when I'm working out, or I saw this and I don't know. All of those questions, free research, free focus group. And I started incorporating that in my marketing. So now when I launched the next ad for $5, I spoke specifically to those points. And so it was a very slow build of like, in the beginning, you won't know. You make your best guess. Where would I be? Like this was a me problem, but I'm not a unicorn. Like there's other people that have this problem. Where do I think my customers would be? Where would other guys like me be? Where would guys who would have a need for this product be? And just make a hypothesis, test it, and then you just read the data and see like where your guys are, what are they asking for. For us, it's always been very, very customer led because I was very clear on like, because I was a corporate retail buyer, I knew the pitfalls of going into retail too soon. Like I know that game because I've seen it happen to founders that I was on the other side of the table to. And so I knew I wanted to build a direct to consumer channel with my audience. And that's why for us, we chose the digital first approach.
Yeah, that's it's incredible. So, not only just having the creativity, but also kind of taking a stand, right? Like understanding like, hey, this is my assumption. I'm going to assume that, if we advertise in GQ, maybe that's going to lead to some sort of traction, or maybe not. Maybe then you have to pivot and go somewhere else. And that sort of learning, that experimentation is exactly in the early stages how you have to be resourceful and sort of use what you have, right? Your knowledge, your network, in both instances, for Sweet Kiwi and Cal Handsome. So I guess that gets me to Jorge's company, which is, you're going after a dinosaur of an industry. How do you land your first customer? How do you even get in front of them with a product that is completely digital, may not even exist at that point?
Yeah, it's I had, in my case, and I think you touched on a very important point. Like, I'm tackling an established industry where, although our product is innovative, there are legacy solutions that do some of the job and could be used, right? So we had to be very strategical on what we were doing and how we approach the market. So in my case, I think I already was very familiar with the fintech space. So when I laid out the strategy, I was like, okay, I need to find a niche, and I think fintech is that niche. So if I find fintechs that want to launch a digital banking product or a subset of that, I know they will pay, because they will compare me with building themselves. And I knew that many fintechs don't have the capacity or the resources to fully build a full fintech product. So they would be willing to trade that off for having like a platform that provides that, and then fund our product, right? So my first goal was have a niche. And I knew that because I knew that if I went to community banks and told them, hey, I'm this person, I've been doing fintech, but you don't know me, and whatever, like just getting that is gonna be tough. And I've seen other founders that have a tough time on that. So that's how I got my first customers. Like basically just people. I started to like, I was already also in the industry, so I told people that I knew, hey, I'm doing this. If you know a founder, and they were like partners or potential partners, right? Hey, we can integrate to you, and then it's a rinse and repeat. But yeah, if you have founders that have these characteristics, or companies that have these characteristics that cannot build but want to launch digital banking or a subset of that, send them to them. I have this product. So we started to get some of those leads. I was also in the same philosophy. I won't give away my product. I needed to make sure that this was a business that I like, was not only like a nice idea or whatever. It was a business. So I actually made up price. I just like said, okay, well, I'll price this like this, some onboarding fee, and then some like monthly subscription fee for this set of features. And I started to test. And the more that I tested, I realized, hey, actually I can go a little bit up. And like I started to see that. So yeah, first customer was actually a good friend that had this idea and on the payment space. And that was easier, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But the second customer was literally somebody that we didn't know. We told him what we were doing. We showed him some demos of what we had at the time. And it's like he did believe on what we wanted to do. They're a full paying customer, and going and live. So that was very, very interesting, because you have to be very transparent as well, because we were building the product. So it's like, hey, we don't have everything. Like we have this, we don't have that. We're gonna do that integration. We are gonna own it. I mean, being very transparent on all of that and putting those boundaries for us was important.
Right.
So that was that. Then it came to the point where it's like, okay, now we're ready or almost ready, and we need to close our first community bank, which we did actually officially in December. So then we switched the strategy, right? So once you have those early adopters, and we had a product, although it wasn't fully for community banks, because our integrations were more like banking as a service providers and not bank cores, and I can talk a little bit more about that. At least we had a product that we could show. We had a good story that they would understand, and I've noticed that. But I knew I needed to find some innovators. So, like if you read Crossing the Chasm, you will see that there are in every market there are companies and people specifically that are willing to adopt something earlier.
Yep.
not necessarily the early adopter, but that there are visionaries, right? So an innovator. So they say, okay, well, actually, I can use this if we do this, this, and that. I'm willing to put the money. So a lot of my work was understanding better the market, the wording, and then trying to find those innovators. In my case, it was clearer because there is normally in the banks that are planning to innovate, they create a role of chief innovation officer or VP of innovation or similar. So literally was through one of those persons. We were lucky also on, like, I mean, luck is very, very important in this. The right time, the right person, the right buying cycle. I mean, it was a lot of like the right checks. I cannot emphasize a lot the luck that we had, the fact that we're doing Techstars at the right time. It was a lot of combinations there. But yeah, so we told them this is what we're doing, this is our vision. They told us, well, we want to launch this digital bank that is twin to our current brand, but we need you to integrate to the core. So they gave us some parameters. And yeah, like we work with pricing with them. This is something that I was discussing with other founders in an event that I was this weekend. The best champions in a customer, they actually want you to succeed, to the point that our champion was very transparent. Jorge, I think you're charging it too low here. And they will tell you, it's like, hey, no, stop there, right? Yeah, you maybe like do it for others, but give me a discount here. But they are actually very open and willing to tell you what's around a good budget for them. And that was very consistent with other founders that I spoke, that a champion that is an innovator really wants you to succeed. They're not looking for a best deal. They know you're a young company, but they want to arm you to succeed. And that we had with our champion at the bank. And yeah, like, and by the end of the year, we signed. Everybody's super surprised because it's like, you're less than a year and you actually sign a bank. So we just turned 1 year now in January. And everybody, like, even like with others, like companies that have been for longer, it has taken them longer than us, right? But luck was a lot of that, but it was also strategy on our end. Yeah.
So two things I'm teasing out from all the conversations here, and I think it's really important to take note for the founders that are on this webinar. One is, sort of delivering things as a service, doing things that don't scale, right? So you have sort of a very intimate connection, a personal bond to your community, to your customer. You know them sort of intimately about, their preferences, what makes them tick, what drives them. And you're processing that and learning that. And I think that's, applicable to all three companies here, and you executed that to a T. The other thing, that I think gets to Jorge's point is, you have to get lucky, right? Sometimes entrepreneurs, you have to be at the right place at the right time with the right amount of luck. And luck, I'm a big believer, happens when you increase the surface area of luck, right? The more shots on goal you take, the more chances you take, right? The more daring you're willing to be, right? To try new things, to go out there and, sometimes eat pie, right? And you're going to stumble and fall, right? And all three of you have done that, but it increases how far you can go, and it increases the connections you can make and grow your business. And I think that gets me to my next point around growth. How do you grow a business on a shoestring budget, right? So I've been in your shoes as a founder. You're strapped for cash. How do you go out and actually go and grow your business? Ehi, I'd love to get some feedback and comments from you.
Ooh, so harass your family and friends. Yeah, they don't like, they look at my call down, they're just like, what, does she want money? No, yeah, but absolutely that. Like I realized I started doing a lot of pitch competitions because I realized there was funding out there. If I was willing to pitch, I brushed up on my pitching. We actually won a lot of grants. I think we've won over $500,000 in pitch grants. That was a great way to get funding. In fact, that became a whole job on its own, like finding pitch competitions and preparing for the pitches, because one thing I found out is you have to be able to prove your model before people give you money. because they don't know you. And I also realized that sometimes when we meet investors, they want to build a relationship, and that takes time. They want to see, how does the company grow within a year? How do you do all the things that you said you were going to do last year? And there's that whole part of building trust. So for us, it was just being really smart, stretching out every dollar, being really thoughtful about our supply chain, who we're sourcing from, also building out our credibility, like with our suppliers, like being able to get credit on a lot of products, stretching everything out, finding people who could basically fund our purchase orders. So we've done like so many things, including going to pitch on Shark Tank just to get funding and continuously be able to grow the business without any interruptions. But one thing I learned, and the key learning for me when I did my first pitch competition, was a lot of my friends and family didn't really know what I did. So I remember the
I
pitch
feel like
competition
that's the
saying,
case. That's the case with every entrepreneur and founder. They have no idea what you're doing, why you're doing,
they
but you're
didn't
out there doing
know.
it.
And the pitch competition, a part of it was that we had to get people to vote. Initially, I was like, well, I don't want to bother anyone. I don't want to have to force people to vote. Like, that's so tacky, like disturbing people and asking them to vote. And then the day before the competition was going to close, I pull up the page that shows like who's leading with the votes. And I see my name on the bottom, and I'm like, oh, okay. And I go to bed and I'm laying there, but I can't sleep because I'm just like, seeing my name at the bottom just bothered me. And I like wake up, and I wake up Michael, and I'm like, yeah, so we have to text some people. And we have to keep like harassing all these people. But the great thing that came out of that, we ended up winning that competition within a day. But the thing that came out of it was the comments. Like, I literally had like my cousins, everyone saying like, oh my God, this is really cool. I knew you did something in yogurt, but I didn't really know it was this serious. And like, people were not only commenting, they were actually donating money too. So after that day, I really took it upon myself to really share what I'm doing, everything I'm doing, be really transparent, be really open, because after that, what I learned is, even when your family and friends don't have money, sometimes they have the right network. So now I'm the kind of person that volunteers information, because I'm just like, yeah, so I'm trying to get into this company, because maybe you'll say, oh, I have a friend that works there.
Yeah.
Because after doing that and being transparent with people, I realized I started getting a lot more connections. I remember someone saying to me, hey, do you want to get into Kroger? I know someone, and I've realized it's just the power of being able to share.
Yeah.
And tell people what are my goals, what do I need. And sometimes my family and friends may not be able to give me the things I need, but they can connect me.
Yeah. So that's such an important point, right? Like sharing what you do and being proud of it. And Rocky, I kind of want to touch in on this point. Like, how do you do that, right? So you mentioned that there's like a certain stigma attached to the industry you're going after. How did you overcome that? How did you're spending cash on ads, right? How'd you do all of that?
Yeah, I think two things is, well, one, like I mentioned earlier, because I started this with like no money and my own money, the business had to make money from the beginning. So when you talk about like investors love to prove business models and all these other type of things, well, we were one of those companies that, like, before I even knew what an investor was or thought about winning an investor, I had to win my customer. So we were literally foundationally built based on winning our customer and getting them to pay enough that like covered the expense of like all we needed to do, and then make some profit as well. So foundationally, although like, yes, it might seem like, oh, it's such a disadvantage in the beginning that like you don't have access to investors or resources, that was our superpower, and I would not have it any other way. And it's because we won our customer early on that like when it came time to scale, our money went so much further. And then when we got introduced to certain organizations like Grid 110 and started doing those accelerators and getting those like grant money, that changed the game so much, because it no longer was, oh, we need money to figure out what our marketing plan is or to figure out like how to get to the next level. It literally was me coming to the table, was like, oh, we figured this out. You give me X and I can do Y. And that's literally what happened once we started getting grant money, because of the time we took to like get so pinpoint on who our customer was. Because when you don't have nothing, you start considering every penny. And I mean, like, what is necessary to go out in this package? Okay, the product needs to go, a user guide needs to go, because if he doesn't use it correctly, then he thinks the product doesn't work, but it's really like, you didn't know how to use it. But all that pretty like marketing and stuff like that is like, can we save a quarter if we get rid of that? That gotta go. It was like literally every dollar had to have a return to it. And so again, I think the luck for us was we had to start out being so scrappy. We had to start out like making a return almost immediately. So like by the time we started having conversations and we started getting bigger and people were like, wait, you guys are doing like over 10 grand a month, just you and your margins are above a 90%. Wait, you're cash flow profitable? By the time people heard of us, we were already doing these things that I thought were normal. I'm like, yeah, you fund companies that don't make money yet. Again, from my world, look, I'm from the hood. Like from my world, you can't have a business that ain't making money. It's just like you won't have a business.
It's
So
it's
for
unheard
me,
of. Yeah.
exactly. So again, I think what might seem like such a disadvantage to me as a founder of color or a founder that like comes from a space where you just are so oblivious to this world, it actually was a superpower. And because I built foundationally on those things, it's made the world a difference for us. So like yeah, I would say we were just very scrappy. Every dollar had to make sense. And because we figured out those things early on, it made the later process so much bigger. So that's why like whenever I meet founders now, I'm like, I can immediately tell them like, bro, you're building for VC. You're not building for your customer.
Yeah.
Like you're building this model that you think people would see a grand vision and want to fund. But I'm like, you need to win your customer first because all those other things are gonna come. When it don't matter, once that VC or somebody sees that you are making money, which cash is everything in this capitalist world, the money will come. So focus on winning your customer before you think about winning an investor. That would be my advice on that point.
What an incredible insight. And this is what I love about all three founders here is you're getting such unique perspectives from the entire entrepreneurial journey. And what Rocky said here, build for your customer, don't build for the VC, right? And that's so important. And, in Ehi's case, and you'll hear from Jorge in just a second too, they're building for the customer, right? They're finding an acute pain point. They're getting customers in love with the product, and then they're just building it for them. And, the other takeaway from Rocky is, kind of being meticulous, right? Like really understanding, the ROI, even if you don't know what you're measuring, but, as simple as it is, hey, if for every dollar, I'm not getting $1 out of it or more, then what's the point, right? I'm going to scratch it out and go use some other channel, some other avenue. Building for the customer. So that leads me to Jorge. Tell me, how do you build for the customer? You're working in a extremely high tech, hot industry. Fintech is having a moment, especially the industry you're going after. How do you keep focus on the customer needs and not building for what investors want to see necessarily?
Yeah, it's a tricky thing. I think it has to do a lot with money, actually. And I want to add that too. So Brandon mentioned like no pilots or anything, and we just did one pilot, and the rest it was just like we gave a discount at the beginning, just answering Brandon's question. But coming back to this, so like we knew when, as I mentioned, we were bootstrapping and like self-funding the linker, right? But we knew how much we were willing to spend for how long, right? So that helped, like told us, okay, we cannot put more than this money for this long, and we need to prove that this is a business or not, or stop, right? So there was a lot of that. And that brings constraints. Like if you have certain amount of money, there is only certain amount of things that you can do, and that's how I got into that. So it was like, okay, so this is the only things that we could do. And at the beginning, I made a lot of mistakes. Let's do that. Let's iterate to that. Like a lot of that, and then very rapidly, like the team was starting to say, hey, no, we cannot. Like I cannot do this. Like this is too much. So focus actually came as a result of money constraint for us. It was like, okay, this is the only thing that we could do. We're going to narrow this vision and let's just talk with the customer. So what's more important? Explain them like, hey, I can do this. I cannot do that. And this is going to come. I think that was very, very important. when started to talk with investors, it did happen that it was like, well, you have all this low code vision. It's like, where is that? And it's like, well, we have this like proof of concepts, but I had to explain like, hey, like these are the resources that I have, and I have to build for the customers. Customers are happy and going live. And now it's about building the rest of the tools. And that's why I need the money. Like, I think it relates a lot to what Rocky was saying, right? It's like, if you give me money, I will put it in this and I'm going to use it for that, right? Which is what we're starting to do right now. But it was a lot of that. Like the focus really came into place just because of the resources, we couldn't do everything. So we need to choose, okay, this is the most important thing that we're going to do. We know that we want to do this other stuff, but there is no way that with the people that we have, the resources and the time, we're gonna be able to do it, or we're all gonna die trying, right? So that was a lot of that for us.
Yeah. You know, there's you know, on the street in venture land, typically they say that if you ask for money, you get advice. If you ask for advice, you get money. And I think that, you know, I see a lot of folks that are building businesses that, you know, want to meet with an investor and they're asking for money. And really the way to their hearts is to ask for advice, right? To learn from them, you know, what is it that excites you or gets you up, you know, in the morning, and then sort of building your customers and your business that way, so that you can then speak to them and show them what you've done. Yeah, incredible. You know, I think, you know, we've gone through sort of an interesting journey. We learned about all of your inspirations. We learned about, you know, sort of how you got your products out the door and you started executing on them. We talked about sort of resource constraint, landing your first customer, and now I kind of want to touch on, now your businesses are growing, right? You have customers, you have product that's flowing out. How do you hire now? Like, what's, you know, how do you look at hiring? How do you build a company around what you have going? Ehi, take it away.
I think with hiring, it's always about finding people who are just as passionate about the business and as passionate about what we're building, that we bring on. We don't have the resources to pay people what they're actually supposed to earn. One of the ways that we're able to bring people in is ensuring that they're really passionate. Like I find people from just going to expos, we keep in touch and they're really persistent about saying, I really love what you're building. I want to be a part of it. How can I be a part of it? And that's how I hire people. I also reach out to my friends and family and say like, hey, I need someone who's really good at accounting. I need someone who's really good at marketing. And through those relationships, I'm able to negotiate like, you know, reduce salaries and maybe equity offerings to bring them in. But I think that the core thing for us is the passion, because right now, even I'm getting paid, you know, with passion. So everyone else has to kind of be on the same wavelength as me. If not,
you're not taking $1 million salary, Ehi? You're
oh
not?
no, I get this box where when I open it, it says it's your passion. Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I find that when people are about the money, it causes frustration and, you know, they're not happy doing the work. And the truth is, it's building, like they have to be sold into the vision. And one thing I've gotten really good at is selling the vision. Where are we going? And I find that people are more willing to invest their time and come on board with the terms that we have. Once you sell them, this is our goal. This is how big this thing can be. For us, like I'll say our closest competitor got bought out by Unilever last year for over $1 billion. That I circulated that among the team saying, this could be us times 5. We just have to put in the work. And that got everyone fired up and excited, like, yeah, we could do this, you know? And those are the ways that we keep them engaged and just keep painting the vision, keep showing people how big can this be. I mean, the kind of collaborations we're doing, the kind of pipelines that we're building, they can see like, hey, this is not just a small business that's trying to stay a small business. We have some big goals. And even if we like he was saying, like if you shoot for the moon, you land on the stars. Like we shoot as high as possible, and we know that as many shots as we take, something's gonna happen. And wherever we land, they're still gonna get a big payout at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Finding people that are aligned to your vision is such a big part of it. Rocky, any thoughts there? How do you find those people that can kind of latch on and, you know, and go for the ride?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that changed the game for me when it came to hiring people was like, and this is like another thing that like I give complete credit to Grid 110 for, because like when I was in their accelerator, just the access to their network, and I would just always like, hey, who do you know that's a founder that's like just started out building a team, and who do you know that's this, that, and the third, and getting connected and talking with so many founders. And I remember having a conversation sometime, and somebody was asking like, well, who would be your perfect ideal person for this role that you're talking about? And I kept referring to someone that I had worked with in corporate. I'm like, oh, I was the product partner, she was the financial partner, and this division, like, I need someone like Rachel. And they literally were like, well, have you thought about reaching out to Rachel? And I was like, oh. And it was like, so for me, one of the biggest gems, and that started it, and I've done it several times over since. Sometimes it's like going back to the people that like already have relationships with you, that work with you before. It was easier to me, and to your point about like selling the vision, it was so much easier for me to sell the vision to someone like Rachel, who I had worked together for 3 years. We had built a $110 million handbag division for Guess together. So that trust in like my skill set for her was already there. And so reaching out to her, already having trust there, and then selling the vision about like, hey, look at what we've already done, like look at where we could go. It was that vision piece with that trust, because I was going back to people that I've already had relationships with. And once that worked out successfully with Rachel, like that kind of changed the game too, where I'm like, again, I'm not pushing no boulders up a hill here. I'm like, where's the path of like least resistant? Like, where can I tap into like the magic that's already here? And so I kind of double back to people that I already knew in those relationships. And that was like the main hire. Now, like the actual tangible hiring of like building this company from like being me by myself up into the point of 200K to like really needing to bring on extra people. Once I got to the point where like I became the bottleneck in my business, like I became the bottleneck because I was doing all the email blasts, I was doing all the social posts, I was managing our ads, I was packaging and shipping out our orders from my apartment in LA. I started having to replace myself in certain things where I was causing problems to the business. For instance, if I could not literally fulfill all of our orders and also build an email blast that needs to go out tomorrow, then I was interrupting the business. Either the email wasn't going out tomorrow, so we were losing money, or customers weren't getting shipped their orders in time, so it was a negative customer experience and our retention rate was going to come down. And then from there, like it was just what Upwork, Fiverr. I'm like, look, there's certain roles where you need people to come in internally, and you need trust, and you need support, and you need to be on. Hey, Rachel, can we see what our new projections is going to be based on blah 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 blah? But there are also certain things where I'm just like, I just need someone who's really good at designing emails, who can understand our customer's tone of voice and can understand like the layout and the psychology of it. And if I can pay you $500 to design 8 emails for us for this month, I'm going to do that. And like, granted, yes, an in-house person and all these things would be great. But when you robbing Peter to pay Paul, and when you paying yourself on passion, it is what it is. Like you have to be scrappy and utilize your resources. So 2 things for us that changed the game was doubling back to people that I already have relationships with, that already knew my work ethic. It was a much easier time to sell them the vision. And then utilizing the resources that are out there, whether it's the Upworks or the Fibers. And like, you can start from the people who, you know, will do it for $500. And then eventually you scale up to getting a really great designer that like works at Apple, who moonlights as a designer. And then you can pay him $1,000 a month. Like you just start with like where you are. And then also, there's so many free resources around you. Again, like Grid 110 for me changed the game because of the resources where I'm like, oh, y'all got like free Slack subscriptions, or like we can get this for free. Like I'm utilizing all the free stuff too. Like pride is not a thing when you're trying to build something great. It is just not. You take what you can get, and you ask for it. That's why I love hearing Sweet Kiwi's story. I'm like, girl, yes. Like you need to be very vocal about what you need, and let people fill in where they can support you.
Yeah. So I think so I want to open it up for Q&A, but just before that, I want Jorge to comment too, just real quickly. Yeah, how are you thinking about hiring? You know, how anything to share, as you think about building your company?
Yeah, no, I actually want to share something that it's happening to us right now, right? That as we're having success, so we think we had a great team, so we brought some of the people that was already working on the product, and we did go to that phase. Not everybody that was currently working on the product is fit, like shares the vision, the enthusiasm, so sharing all of that. But I think what I can add to the colors that Ehi and Rocky were sharing is that right now we're in the phase that we're actually bringing in like very senior people that can bring us to the next level in certain areas. And that's really hard because it's like they are used to earn a lot of money, right? And you're like, okay, if only I had this person with this, like, I mean, right now we're probably I'm pretty confident that we're bringing in the person with 14 years of experience in banking operation on the technical IT and operations side of things, right? And hands-on and leading teams. And but one mentor told me, hey, for his fintech, he said, man, I brought people from Goldman Sachs for very little salary, and I give options. And it was like, you would think that sometimes you have to bring certain people. Right now we have one person that is working as consultant part-time, but she shares a lot of the vision. So she gives way more time that she's actually billing us. And she has all the connections, makes all the introductions. The person I'm bringing in, man, it's a person that a lot of experience, shares the vision. And so this of sharing the vision, showing the results. So for somebody senior, I think it's not only about where you're going and why this is a big opportunity, it's also showing that you put the work and that you, with the resources that you had, you actually are making results, and that you have the mindset of, yeah, we want this to be successful and do the things the right way. So for example, we told him, hey, we're already PCI compliant, we're already SOC 2 compliant, but we know that we need to work on this, this, and this. And it's like, I like the fact that you care about this because it tells me that you're serious. So then I can put my time to help you get to the next level on everything else. So I would say on that, it's like, you need to show your vision, and you also need to show the results. And like very experienced people are going to trust you and are going to say, okay, this is a serious person that wants to bring this to the next level, and are going to join you. And I'm living it that exactly now. So something that a few months ago I couldn't have told, but I'm very humble actually by what's happening with the people that is working with us. Like I went to this event, like we're super connected. So this advice actually applies not only for like very tactical roles, but actually they apply for very senior and potentially transformational roles as well.
Yeah, it's such an important point, right? So mission and vision, and selling that mission and vision can only take you so far with your resources and the people that you plan on hiring. But actually putting proof into the pudding, right? So like, executing, going out and doing things and demonstrating to people, hey, that you are a believable leader of this company is going to make them feel welcomed and make them more enamored to execute and try their best and try their hardest. So amazing insights. Thank you so much to all of you here today. I want to pass it off to Margot real quick and open it up for Q&A perhaps.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ahmed, and everyone. That was such a really well done panel. I think this was one of the best panels I've attended in a while, and I feel like I'm pretty jaded on some of these events, so this is incredible. Just an announcement. So yeah, this is recorded, and we'll follow up with an email to send this out to everyone who's registered. And we'll have another event March 5th. So it's also going to be virtual and talking about founder second act. So founders who've gone on to maybe failed the first business, gone to start a second, or have gone into their careers, and kind of exploring destigmatizing, kind of, starting again. But yeah, I think if you have time, Ahmed, if you want to take a few questions.
Yeah, let's do it. So there's a question here. Let's see. Tips, book recommendations for someone raising their first Series A on their own. Okay. So kind of what I alluded to earlier. Ask for money, you get advice. Ask for advice, you get money. If you are going out to raise, investor money, make sure that you have all the points that you want to share, right? That you have traction, you have customers, the business is healthy and heading in the right way. And the biggest thing I'd say is investors don't invest in one single moment, right? They want to what's known as connect the dots, right? So make multiple points of introduction, meet them from different ways, and then when it's appropriate, go out for that fundraise. Cool. Any other questions? Let's see. So I guess for the founders, any changes you're seeing in your businesses post-program? So what, the accelerator programs, whether Techstars or Grid 110, what have you seen? Ehi, would love to hear from you.
I think that one of the things I really appreciated with the program was obviously the pitch day. I think I really worked on my pitch, and I really didn't ever think that my pitch could be better because, like I said, I've done a lot of pitching, but I felt like it really did take my pitch to a new level. And also, I really like the fact that we were tracking our goals week to week, and we've continued doing that. I felt like it really helped us build like a really solid pipeline, and continue to give us a lot of things that we're working on and we're building on. It really made the team more organized. And I think that those were the takeaways that I made from Techstars. Also, how to raise funding. And I think that we actually stopped fundraising because we wanted to do it right. Because we learned, like, we were literally in the fundraising session thinking, oh my God, like we've been doing it wrong the whole time. Like, we're so bad at this. Like, we just wanted to take in all the lessons, stop and restart, but this time doing it the right way and getting it right.
Yeah. Cool. Rocky or Jorge? Yeah, go for it. Jorge, you unmuted, so I'm going to go with you first, Jorge. So, since you've been so patient and kind, let's go, Jorge. Yeah, tell us what are your thoughts there.
Yeah, well, a couple of things, right? I think one of the main things was actually the cadence and the speed, but also and I think it's related to what he was saying. So there are a couple of rituals that we learned in Techstars that we brought into the company as well, and I think that gave us that weekly goals that are shared. So we do OKRs with the team, and I already did it, but I think I didn't do it in the right way. So I think now it's something that I learned post-program that has changed a lot on the dynamics of the company. I think that was probably one of the most important changes that came to us. Honestly, also, I have more time. So one of the things that I like, now that I check my calendar, I was like, oh, now I have time. So now I can focus. So I'm starting to see a lot of things in the business that I need to focus on.
Yep.
But at the same time, now I have the time to do that, right? So the program was great. At the same time, it was very intense. So I was always like, I felt like, okay, I'm struggling with some things and definitely delegating with the rest of the people. But now I can focus a lot on that. And the other thing that changed is also because of that, I had to trust more the people from the team. And I feel that after the program, I came back to an organization that was also more empowered than what I left before, like being full in the program. And it's not that I left, but it's like that time, right? So it's very nice to see just people that grab the ball and run and know where to run. And that's amazing because that has made us a better team for sure.
Yeah. Rocky, bring us home. The floor is yours.
Yes. I would say the biggest change for me that has been the most impactful for my business and working with Great 110 is realizing that, like, we can get further together. We can get further together. Like, as great of a business as I thought I was building, and as great of a path that we were on, and profitability and all of that, having just like a resource of just being able to go and like, hey, I'm having this problem. Who do we know that's having this problem? And if anybody knows, once you're a gritty, you are a gritty for life. It don't matter if you were in the program 3 years ago, tomorrow, last month. Like, I was literally connected with people that were like gritties from like years ago, being like, okay, cool. I remember when I was at your place, do this. Or I remember when I was facing that crossroad, I went left. This is how it turned out for me. You might want to go right. And so like getting further together just kind of like really blew my mind. And the actual programming in itself, I appreciate programs that are, I don't know how to say this, not cookie cutter, if that makes sense. Like it met me where I was. It wasn't like, oh, I wasn't, once Black Lives Matter happened, everybody had an accelerator for minorities and it was all week 1, what is a marketing plan? Week 2, no. When you find a resource that will like literally meet you where you are and support you where you are with what you need and help fill in the colors for you, that changes the game. And when you actually have companies like Techstars and Grid 110 that actually like really are pouring into founders and the well-being of it and helping you go further together. Like again, I just hadn't had any examples where I'm from of like entrepreneurs building great things. I didn't have people to go and ask like, oh, well, how did you go from like 0 to 5K, 5K to 10K, 10K to 20? How do you go from 20K to 50K in a month? I had no idea. I was walking around in the room with the lights off and I met this incredible organization that just like flipped the switch for me. And I was like, wow, everything else got so illuminated. So I'm grateful and I'm such a champion. And that's why I'm so open about sharing my experience for other founders. Like, I just want people to know the things that I wish I had known. And I want people to like not make the mistakes that I made. And I want people to like make the successful choices that I made too, of like, hey, no, like when you're at this problem, like, you don't have to fight that fight alone, or you don't have to like spend your last dollar. Go get this business line of credit. Here's how to do it. All of those things were poured into me. And so I just want to pour them back to everyone else out there.
Yeah, appreciate that. That is a wonderful place to end. Thank you so much once again, Ehi, Jorge, Rocky. Thanks so much for sharing such tangible, actionable insights. I hope you inspired some folks here and gave them some new life in terms of thinking about their business and their entrepreneurial journeys. As Margot mentioned, we'll be hosting another event in early March. We'll communicate that through the Luma, so you'll get invites for that. But that's it for us. Thanks so much for joining, and see you around next time.